Okay, we're gonna do what no Let's Player has ever done before. We're gonna squeeze a second episode out of Cool Spot. I would venture to say that few people have seen this far into the game before, because all the hippie Let's Play people out there, they just play Cool Spot for a one-off of sorts and then never return to it again. So what do we got here? Did you see the mouse coming out of the hole there? Had pajamas of sorts. I don't know what the implication of that is. Was there some kind of old nursery rhyme about mice in pajamas? Or perhaps the developers of Cool Spot were big fans of the show Bananas in Pajamas? Remember that? I'd be legitimately surprised if you did. That was a long-ass time ago. There's bananas in pajamas, they're coming down the stairs. I'm referencing some old stuff on this channel today. So, there really isn't anything to say about Cool Spot that hasn't been said. The very idea of Let's Plays, when you think about it, is kinda dumb, because you're expected to come up with 20 consecutive minutes worth of things to say about something that has maybe 5 seconds worth of content to talk about. Now, why do the rats' bullets, let's call them, why do they go through the wooden planks when I don't think my cool shots do. You can rewind the tape. That cheese was going through the wooden plank, but my stuff wasn't. I apologize for the gas. The gas is a regular guest on this channel. So let's talk about John Mulaney. How do you think John Mulaney would feel about Cool Spot? He'd be all, "Wow, would ya look at this? There's a little red ball, and he's sponsored by a soda company, and he's throwing bullets at rats." I've kinda got the cadence down. Everyone remembers that one John Mulaney skit where... Okay, my cool shots do go through the wooden planks. I didn't think they did. Anyway, everybody remembers that John Mulaney skit with the Fanny's Diner and the Tom Jones song that got played 50 times in a row. And I'm explaining this very poorly. If you don't already know this bit, you're gonna be really confused. I don't think the diner was actually called Fanny's Diner, now that I think about it, but yeah, I'm sure you know what I'm referring to here. No, you know what I'm talking about. Let's see, and he had that bit about how he got to meet Bill Clinton back before he was president, and Bill Clinton dated his mom for a while, and I don't know how true that is. I mean, I don't think John Mulaney's like a known liar, but it just kinda seems rather far-fetched, you know? I guess people who stand up on stage and act all day probably wouldn't have to try too hard to lie to their audience, so maybe it was all just a lie. Who knows? All these mice remind me of the movie Mouse Hunt with Nathan Lane and some other man whose career did not take off. They had that mouse they had to get rid of in that fancy house they inherited, and the house just fell apart at the end. That was a good movie. What year did that come out? 98? Yeah, I want to say 98. Yeah, I remember I used to go to filmspot.com, and users would have their movie reviews, because it was just like a forums website but for movies, and one of the reviews for Mouse Hunt just said, "This reminds me of Tom and Jerry. Those two adult men just cannot catch that mouse. 10 out of 10. I mean, at least that review actually made sense. There really wasn't a whole lot of moderation on filmspot.com, so that you could just post total junk in there. Like once there was a review of a Shark Tale, and the review just said, "Ah, help, I'm scared." That was it. That was the entire text of the movie review. There was no moderation at all. I mean, the site wasn't particularly active, so I guess not too much. There weren't too many weird things that slipped through the cracks. Very few people actually used the site to the point that they had to shut it down, because FilmSpot and GameSpot were supposed to be like sister websites, but since FilmSpot was nowhere near as popular, they closed it down after a while. And I remember trying to go to the site after it closed, and it had a weird 404 message. Not just the normal, this website doesn't exist, but it had a line about, like, get rid of any associations you once had with this website, or something drastic like that. I'd venture to say that very few people have seen the 404 message that I'm talking about. This FilmSpot was more or less a dead website. So mascot platformers, like we talked about. I think one of the reasons they don't do mascot platformers is because people are just too weird about these things these days. I think the tipping point was that incident with the Tony the Tiger, or the cereal mascot on Twitter, and the lesson from that was just that people are too weird for us to do fun stuff anymore. You ever hear about that one? So the idea was Frosted Flakes or Kellogg's or whoever makes it these days. They created a Twitter account for Tony the Tiger, so you could like talk to Tony whenever you wanted, and people just really abused it, and they used the Twitter handle to sexually harass Tony the Tiger, and they would say like, "Frost my flakes, daddy." And eventually the Kellogg's people got so weirded out that they just shut the account down, I think. And then the guy who actually tried to act as Tony the Tiger had like a freak out, and he's like, "You're all blocked. I am never speaking to any of you again. You are all so full of sin." I think they brought the account back like a year or two later, though, and since then I guess the joke has kind of died down, so it's okay for Tony the Tiger to exist on Twitter, and he can be free of sexual harassment. You think that would ever happen to Cool Spot if he had a Twitter account? You think anybody out there's attracted to Cool Spot? Something that barely even resembles a human being in the slightest? There's gotta be at least one. Some people are into some wacky stuff. But enough about that weirdness. So did you guys see that Nintendo was up to more evil hijinks lately? First it was they shut down all those tournaments. And then to make matters worse, there was the guy who was making the special Nintendo Switch Joy-Cons in favor of that screamy guy who died. And anyway, and there was like a loving tribute to him, and Nintendo told the guy making the controllers to knock it off. And you know how the fans are about those things. They're gonna overreact. They're gonna treat it as if Nintendo personally killed. I'm gonna stop saying this right now because this could potentially get taken out of context. But you get the gist. So the layout of this level is kind of weird, huh? It's got some verticality to it. And some of the bubbles you jump on, and some of them you jump in. And I can't seem to get very good at it, can I? So I think the background's like a surf shop of sorts. That yellow thing from below was like an inflatable flotation device, and you got pool floaties over there. There used to be a surf shop in my area, but there really aren't any sort of like water-based attractions, you know, within like a 30-mile radius of this town, so that I don't think they stayed in business for very long. Well, maybe there. I gotta look that up. One of these days. The camera's kinda crummy in this level. You gotta take a leap of faith, as all the cool gamers say. Okay, well, I'm clearly not gonna be able to do this, but I think you get the gist of what Cool Spot is about, and let me just congratulate myself on being the first person to get 2 episodes out of Cool Spot instead of 1, just like I was talking about at the beginning. See, I brought it all back.